Hey everyone, today I wanted to go through some practical principles of evangelism to youth, as we talked about in the previous video. And it's important to note that this is not just for youth workers or parents, this is actually even including for youth, because as we'll see even in the next video, one of the greatest opportunities for youth evangelism and sharing the gospel is actually other youth. And so this is for everyone, but really important principles that we can use to share the gospel with the youth. And the first thing that we need to do, and it might seem cliche, but we need to pray. For me, when I was a youth, I got saved at 18. I know that there was dozens of people praying for my salvation. So we need to continue to pray for them, that God would open their hearts, open their minds to see Jesus for who he is. But also, we need to pray for ourselves as we minister, that we need to have boldness and clarity as we share the gospel and also live out the gospel in their lives. As it says in Colossians 4:2-4, pray also for us that God may open to us a door for the word, to declare the mystery of Christ, on account of which I am imprisoned, that I may make it clear which is how I ought to speak. And so we want to pray for ourselves as we share the gospel with youth, that we would be good representations, that we would communicate well the gospel of Jesus Christ to the youth. The next is to be intentional, and we need to live life with people, and specifically with youth. It's so important to come alongside them through the ups and downs of life, at the sports games, at the concerts, whatever it might be, to be present in their life, to be intentional in saying, I'm going to spend time with them, and not just when we meet on a Sunday morning, but be a part of their lives, be intentional in how we love them and gain their trust, and we really share our lives with them. And this is so important and even clear in the Bible as well. 2 Corinthians 5:20, it says this: "Therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, God making his appeal through us. We implore you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God." And so it says to be ambassadors, to be representations of Jesus. And even if we look at Jesus's walk on this earth, that he came alongside the disciples. He walked with the disciples through the fishing, the ups and downs of life, through the ministry, the good days, the celebratory worship days, but also the hard days as well. And so we're intentionally being with them, but also we're intentional in the message that it is only through Jesus that we can live, only through Jesus that we can be saved and have life through. The next is to be consistent. Talking to people, no matter what age, one time, can be helpful and impactful. But what is even more impactful? It's the consistency. It's the living each day with them, to be consistent with them in their lives, not just for a couple weeks, but for month after month, week after week, year after year, decade after decade even in some cases, that we are consistent with them. And again, Jesus did this while on earth. For years, he spent time with the disciples, pouring into them, even when they failed, even when there was challenges along the way, he was consistent with them. Ephesians 5:1-2 says this: "Therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God." And so as we are consistently walking with them, we're going to walk in love with them. And as Christ loved us, we're going to love other people, that we're going to be a fragrant offering, that we're going to be a blessing to their lives. And so be consistent. This is hard work, but this is going to make the longest term impact on these youth as they come to know Jesus. The last thing is to be persistent. People fail and wander from God. It happens at every age and stage, but especially with youth as they're trying to figure out life, trying to figure out what is life, if you will. Who are they? What their identity is. We need to not give up on them. Keep loving them. Keep running with them in wisdom and in grace. Don't give up praying for them either. Some people write people off and say, oh, they're too far gone. They're not too far gone. God can save from the uttermost. And we need to be persistent, not only in action, but also in prayer. Luke 18:6-7 says this: "And the Lord said, hear what the unrighteous judge says, and will not God give justice to his elect, who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long over them?" And so, as the persistent widow in that passage, continue to pray. The Lord relented, the Lord gave in, the Lord will give us the answers to our prayer. And we don't know exactly who will be saved, but we want to be persistent. That's what God calls us to, persistent in the lives of the people that we're ministering to, that are walking around us, that they might be saved. And so there's a lot of more practical things we can go through, but hopefully those are some guiding principles to help us to not only share the gospel with youth, but also create a culture of evangelism within churches and ministries, to continue to pray, continue to be intentional in loving them and sharing the love of Christ, to be consistent in the way we minister to them, to love with them, walk with them, and lastly, to be persistent, to not give up, even if they falter, even if they wander, but to continue to pursue them with the grace and forgiveness and love of Jesus Christ.